Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heal the Father Wound, a transformative virtual event designed to help you to release emotional blocks, rebuild confidence, and rediscover your worth. I'm your host, Alexandra Hall, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Elza Sophie, an expert in subconscious healing and transformation. We often hear about mindset work, but true transformation happens beneath the surface, deep in the subconscious mind. Elza's work focuses on uncovering and rewiring the hidden patterns that shape our confidence, health, and overall well being. Today, we're diving into how the subconscious healing can help us break free from old cycles and step into our highest potential. Welcome, Elza.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here and to get to share everything I've learned about the subconscious and the power it holds over us with the audience. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, it's one of my favorite topics, so excited to have you.
Definitely mine too.
So let's start with the foundation, your method. What is the subconscious healing method and how does it work?
Sure. Great question. So it took up the subconscious healing method and the actual process that I do during my one-on-one sessions with my clients is called the subconscious rewiring method. It took time to develop. The process really started with me really diving deeper to understand what's the root cause of everything that we do, right? Meaning, why do we feel the way we feel? Why do we act the way we act? Why do we have a hard time in certain areas? Why is one person struggle in this aspect and not another? And essentially, what makes humans tick? And that has been about a 15-year journey of a lot of discovery, um, you know, educational background in psychology and studying the human mind, neuroscience, but then diving after that into holistic modalities and understanding the comprehensive connection between our subconscious mind, our energy, our physical body, our mental state, and even spirituality manifestation and connection to divine. Most people like to look at these subjects as individual, um, you know, disciplines, but I think the secret lies within the power of understanding how they're all connected. One of the things I've early discovered, and most people probably know, is that our subconscious mind controls 95% of what we do.
Mhm.
It controls 95% of how we feel, think, act, and even the perception of reality we have. And our perception of reality is what creates our reality. So
Mhm.
essentially, that means on a 95% of the reality we're creating, the thoughts we're thinking, the feelings we're feeling, and the behavior we exhibit is controlled by a part of our mind and brain that most of us don't really understand. And so that is why I decided to dive in and specialize my expertise in studying the invisible force that really runs the show in the background. And through a lot of sessions, through doing a lot of trial and error and using my own personal struggles as the motivator to really understand what's going on so I can heal and help other clients heal, I was able to discover some incredible, fascinating things about the subconscious mind and how programming really works, how it's designed to try to keep us safe, and how just willing your way to change a behavior, not feel that the thought or the feeling, it doesn't work. And by not seeing your subconscious as an enemy or this, invisible force that's controlling you, but actually connecting with it and trying to better understand it and understand why it's making you behave the way you are and becoming its friend and understanding that there's a reason behind everything, it is really the key to healing. So it's actually developing in a relationship and an understanding of your subconscious mind that I found is the missing key to truly healing, and not healing as a, lifelong process, but healing as something that you do and has an ending. Because for someone who's suffered from a lot of different forms of physical, emotional, mental trauma, I don't want to be stuck in a cycle of healing for the rest of my life. I want to heal and just thrive and go
Mhm.
embrace life. And I wanted to find I wanted to understand what would take to get to that point of finality within the healing journey. So that's what I've discovered so far.
That's fascinating. And it's incredible how much of our daily experiences are shaped by what's happening beneath our conscious awareness.
Yep.
And going back to what you said about we're run 95% of by our subconscious and those unconscious thoughts. And experts say that 70% of those thoughts, 70 to 80%, are disempowering, self-sabotaging,
Yep.
self-limiting. And of
Mhm.
course, it all, ties back into our early experiences as children and the programs that we receive. But yeah, that's why it's so important to get to the root cause of things, because consciously we can want to make different choices and decisions and things like this, but the subconscious, like you said, runs the show. So if there's some old programming in there that's like contrary to what you want to happen, then no matter how much you consciously think or visualize or, try to do the affirmations or intention setting, it's just not going to work without that deeper subconscious work. So, one of the biggest challenges people face is confidence, but many don't realize that deep rooted self doubt often stems from childhood trauma. Can you explain how trauma gets stored in the subconscious and how it affects our confidence and even chronic health issues?
Absolutely. There's actually an entire sort of path of discovery and what felt like clues along the way that I had to follow to really get to the root of all of this. And there's a really interesting way my brain made sense of it, and I love to explain to people, the way how I see it really form. So many of the clients that I work with have some form of chronic health issue, and same person has lack of confidence or low self-esteem. Same person typically tends to be a people pleaser or struggle having a lot of toxic relationship dynamics in their life. And it almost became an undeniable pattern, and all of those traits all led back to, like you said, childhood trauma. So then I said, okay, so if I can make all these conclusions about someone based on one thing they say, I have chronic issues. Oh, then I know you have low, you struggle with confidence. Then I know you have childhood trauma. Then I know there is going to be areas of your life you're struggling outside of that area. Just the fact that you can map it all out so specifically, and it's a repetitive pattern every time, meaning you can predict that is the case for everyone. And after doing over 7,000 sessions with the same pattern, I thought, okay, I have enough statistical significance and enough data that this is a proven pattern that exists within human conditioning and behavior. So, if you think about why chronic health issues exist in the body, the main root cause of chronic health issue is uh, stress, inflammation, and stress in the body. And every single person who has chronic health issues will probably say, I feel like I'm in survival mode most of the time. The activated survival mode is really the root of a lot of the issues. Nervous system, endocrine system, and digestive system dysregulation is sort of the main key places I also see the biggest impact. So then the question became, well, yeah, okay, how do you calm the nervous system? How do you turn off the survival mode, right? How do you get out of survival mode, especially if you experience childhood trauma? And that leads to the next question about the how the trauma gets stored and why so many people that seem to sort of match this profile also struggle with confidence or not trusting themselves. This led me down further into the path of understanding how subconscious programmings are formed. And programming is just you have an experience that creates tension in the body. If you have a negative experience when you're young, it creates tension in the body. Your body is trying to make sense of, and your mind too, brain and body trying to make sense of what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? the You have to come up with the reason why you're experiencing this trauma. So in that moment, you create a belief, meaning, let's say if someone is experiencing pain and hurt by the very person who they thought was supposed to love them, that makes no sense, right? Why am I feeling pain when I should be safe? So in that moment, that child's mind tries to come up with a solution to soothe the nervous system. And in that moment, maybe the most logical explanation is, I must have done something to deserve this, right? That could be that, it could be anything. It could be anything. And it depends maybe whether you're two and what your level of comprehension and, processing is versus if you're 12, right? So the conclusion could be anything. But what that does in that moment is it allows that mind to make sense of why you feel the way you do, right? Okay, I feel pain because I did something to deserve it. Okay, now I can breathe. So it actually regulates the nervous system in that moment.
Mm.
However, the acceptance of this false belief, because the higher self and that deeper part of us knows, I didn't do anything to deserve this pain, right? That part says, wait a minute, I don't agree with it. But the part of us that's trying to keep us safe and regulate and help us feel calm is just trying to make sense of the moment. And that part accepts that as our truth, says, I did something to deserve this. That is
Mm.
the first moment you allow programming. You allow belief that is not truly aligned with your higher self and your truth to become accepted as, in that moment, your truth. And that is the moment we separate from our inner truth.
Mm.
And what happens is this just adds on, right? There's one moment, maybe that was the first time it happened, but then usually when that happens, it becomes a pattern that repeats over and over and over. So a few things happen in that moment. Not only your experience, you have a trigger an experience that makes you come up with a belief or an idea or explanation, right? Make sense of what's going on, and most likely it's false. Part of the reason why so much of the damage happens in childhood, or trauma occurs in childhood, is because when we're young, our ability to process what's going on and why what's going on is so limited. When you're 3, you don't have an understanding of the bigger sense of the world, of mom and dad are stressed, or something else is going on. We think it's all about us. And that's part of the reason why we're in such a tender, vulnerable stage of our life, that we're more likely to create false conclusions and false explanations to what's going on and what the truth is, right? And that's part of the reason why so many people, they're like, oh gosh, of course it goes back to my childhood. But it's just because that's when you had the least amount of data to really make the best conclusion that really truly served you. So in that moment that you chose, I must have deserved it, you also shift your identity from someone aligned in their truth, in their power, to someone who now accepted a false statement as your reality. You step out of alignment with yourself, and that is the first moment your higher self, loses trust with yourself. That was the first time you lied to yourself. And so
Mm.
if you fast forward, right, that person is now 30, 40, has chronic health issues, low confidence, low self-esteem, they're not going to realize that by accepting false ideas just to regulate the nervous system in that moment, they accepted something that wasn't true. And that is what disconnected them from their true power. And also, it actually shifts the person's identity. Something that people don't understand about the subconscious mind and programming is that when you accept something that's not true as an idea and as a belief, if you repeat it for long enough, over 6 months, 12 months, it actually becomes part of your identity.
Mm.
And this explained the part why so many people who try so many modalities struggle to get out of that survival mode, because that is what happens in that moment. You accept false belief as truth. You step out of alignment with your truth. That's the first lie you accepted. You no longer trust yourself. So that's where the lack of trust, lack of confidence comes in. It's going back and repairing every single false idea about yourself you've accepted. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve love. Love comes with pain. Success is painful. I'll never heal. Whatever the false belief is, it's the accumulation of those that says, I don't trust myself. And so that's what needs to heal on a deeper level. Now, from chronic health issue perspective, to calm the nervous system down, you have to also recognize that when you accepted that false truth, you changed your subconscious identity. You went from a powerful human being who manifests, creates their own reality, and steps into alignment with what is true to them, to a victim of something, a victim of circumstance, a victim of abuse or trauma. You're also telling your brain, oh, I deserved this pain, but you're registering to the subconscious an identity that something external has the ability to hurt me, and I cannot protect myself from that. And that shift of subconscious identity of I'm a powerful being, I create my own reality, to outside things can hurt me and I have no say in that, is what keeps people's nervous system in fight or flight for the rest of their life. And that's why a lot of people with chronic health issues cannot get off of that survival mode, activation. You have to go and rewire your identity to release all those old programming, repair the relationship with yourself, which will make you finally trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, confidence, self-esteem naturally improves. But then no matter how many, functional doctor visits you do, supplements you do, trust me, I've been there. I have a chronic health issue. To some degree, what I have found after 15 years in this, in my own personal journey and thousands of clients, is that unless you go back and you rewire your subconscious identity to start feeling safe again and to know that nope, people can't just come and hurt you, that you are a powerful being. You can set boundaries. You create your own reality. You are good enough, and you get to create a world in which you can feel safe. When you inherently embody that identity, that is the moment your brain and your body register, I am finally safe. And
Mm.
then that survival mode can be turned off. And then you can do all the, supplementing herbs, functional, treatments that you need, and your body will actually respond. And this is what I saw a lot, and a lot doing a lot of energetic healing, was that we were creating relief and it was helping, but the pattern wasn't broken. And I've actually seen that going back and really understanding this mechanism of how things really develop, how your programming creates your subconscious identity, and that subconscious identity affects everything, including your physiology and how your body responds to your environment, is the missing key to resolving your health issues, relationship challenges, self-esteem, what you believe is possible for you as far as success, and pretty much everything else. Hope that
Mm.
makes sense.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautifully articulated and said, and I know the audience is gonna love that. Um, and yeah, when we're small children, we don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with those certain traumatic things that happen to us. And really, our subconscious, like you said, it's not an enemy, it's just trying to protect us and keep us safe. But as we get older, those things no longer serve us. That was protecting us is no longer protecting us. So,
And but the thing that oftentimes is missed in the, the industry we're in as far as helping supporting people, is you have to bridge the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious mind knows it. How many things we all know, but don't do it anyway, right?
mhm,
We sit there like, "Ah, I'm okay, I'm safe," but viscerally, the body doesn't feel safe. And I've witnessed this in my sessions where when you clear the energetic resistance, you clear the stored trauma from the body, you clear those limiting beliefs, but then, final step, you revisit the moment when that trauma, that
mhm,
programming was created, and you connect to that part of the subconscious, and you walk through a process of explaining to that part, that version of you. Maybe that was 8-year-old version of you that said, I'm not good enough. Maybe the 45-year-old version probably knows that's a lie, but the 8-year-old believed it. And there's a part in the brain that is still that 8-year-old and still believes it. And that's the part that's resisting the letting go and the healing. So the missing key that has really changed the game for me in my sessions has been the rewiring. Do all the healing, do all the alignment, do every modality and tool that you need, but do not forget to revisit the version of you who embodied that identity and consciously and subconsciously connected to, so that subconscious identity can be updated. It's like having your phone running on a outdated software.
Mhm.
Right? So you have to go and update the software, the subconscious software identity to match the new identity, because that's where the glitching happens. That's where people are like, I've done so many, so much work on myself and I've read so much and I do. Why is it not work? It's because you got to update the software.
There's still those old programs in
Yep.
there.
And an old identity as a result.
Yeah, I love the inner child work, and I don't know if you call it that, but even just doing those inner child meditations and
Mhm.
going back to that younger version of you and just the whole visualization aspect of it is actually very powerful. It sounds like that's not going to work, but I've experienced like profound transformation just by going back and revisiting my small self and like letting my small self be angry at my parents, even though like one of them really didn't do anything wrong. It was just the circumstances that were given and she had to do what she had to do. But I never allowed myself to get angry. And so I went through this whole process, even like as an adult. And anyways, it cleared up a lot. So yeah, very important. So many people struggle with confidence, but don't necessarily associate it with past trauma. Why does subconscious programming play such a huge role in self-worth?
Because confidence is all about what you believe about yourself, right?
Mm.
Think about it, right? If you believe you're smart, ambitious, beautiful, big person, whatever you believe is going to affect your confidence. That's ultimately what it is. So when someone says, I have, struggle with confidence, there is an area in their body, what they believe about themselves is false. And it's preventing them from, there's something they want to do. And because they don't believe that they can do it because of old programming, they're not confident in themselves. Maybe they're not confident in how they show up in relationships. Maybe they're not confident they can make 6 figures or 7 figures, or they're not confident they can public speak or just have a conversation, right? Or ace the interview. It's all about what you believe about yourself. And what we just said, right, is that a lot of the false beliefs about ourselves, like I'm not good enough, I'm not, I'm not smart enough, or if I don't please everyone, people will abandon me, or if I speak my truth, I'll be rejected. Oftentimes, those types of programs develop early in life because when we're young, we're trying to make sense of the world. Our first few relationships with the world are our parents or caregivers. And so that's part of the reason why those relationships have so much to do with the trauma you do healing, because the first few relationships with the caregivers is how we make sense of so many things. Safety, right? And love. Safety and love is, and the definitions of what safety is, how much safety, what safety is supposed to feel like, and how you get safety, meaning how do you achieve that? How do you get that need of safety met, is taught and modeled usually in the home when you're young. And then when it comes to things like, acceptance, significance, growth, oftentimes that's when you go to kindergarten or you go to, grade school. You're interacting, you're studying, you're making relationships and friendships, and you make sense of rejection, right? Or in order for me to be accepted, I have to show up this way. Or when I kind of show people who I am, they don't really like it. Maybe my real self isn't that likable. Maybe I need to pretend to be somebody else, right? Or depending on what grades you get, maybe you create beliefs about your intelligence and how smart you are or not smart you are, right? We all can probably think of a class where we were in that grade and, probably affected our confidence. So it's just normal human behavior. It's reward and punishment. When something feels rewarding, you're going to want to do it more. When something feels punishing, you're going to want to avoid it. And that's what it is that there's programs, there's conditioning on a subconscious level that has created avoidance behaviors patterns with certain things, and by wanting to stay safe or feel accepted or not be rejected or be loved, right, whatever the version is, it's two main things where all of our behaviors is all about meeting our basic human needs, and our behaviors are shaped by our thoughts and beliefs,
Mhm.
and that's based on the subconscious programming and the identity we hold, right? So when you behave a certain way, like even when someone says, oh, I procrastinate, I'm such a big procrastinator, I want to get rid of this habit. You're procrastinating because it's serving you a purpose. It's helping you
Mhm.
avoid dealing with the uncomfortable feeling of I'm not good at this, or I'm doing something that I don't enjoy, right? You're
Like what's
avoiding
underneath that story, like what, yeah, something.
underneath the behavior. You always want to ask if there's something you're struggling to change in your life, but you really want to change. First question you want to ask is, what purpose is this serving me? What
Yes.
need is this giving me? Because if you can understand what human basic need is, the driver behind it, and you can make sense and understand why you chose that as your way of getting that need met, and you can replace it with a healthier way of getting that need met, then you
Mhm.
can teach your subconscious there's other ways, right? So if let's say someone says, I have to give up my true self to be loved, you have to understand that that's a pattern, and that's making you create certain decisions in relationships. You have to then realize, okay, I have to rewire my belief that love needs equals sacrificing self, and then you have to define what love is. Love is unconditional. Love doesn't require me to give up who I am just to be accepted, right? You have to go through that. And then only, right, can you actually experience shift in behavior. Behaviors and habits are really easy to change once you understand what really drives them. I've had people give up bad habits after 1 or 2 sessions because we got to the root of really what was driving the decision.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's like peeling back the layers to get to the root of what's really holding you back. And I love that, asking yourself, how is this serving me? Like, and just identifying that first in order to shift it and move forward in a healthy way. So thank you for clarifying that.
Right.
And once we recognize these deep-seated patterns, the next challenge is shifting them. So, how do limiting subconscious beliefs keep people stuck in unhealthy cycles? And what can they do to begin to start breaking free?
Great question. So when you have a certain belief that, like, let's say the example we just used of, in order for me to get love, I must hide a part of me, or I cannot be my true self and still get love. Um, that is driven by programming. You have to, like I said, so the first step to identifying these patterns is asking what basic need it's meeting and really understand what's driving it. We're as from survival of the fittest, right? We're designed to survive. So here's the catch, right? If you're stuck in the mode of making decisions and accepting patterns and programs that help you survive, you're not going to want to let those go.
Mhm.
Once you understand what programs are keeping you in survival mode and why, and rewire those, then you can shift into thriving, healing, thriving mode, right? And you can't be in both at the same time. So you have to really understand, okay, what is this serving me? What basic human need is this filling? Is it about certainty? Is this about variety, right? Is this about significance? Is this about love and connection? Is this about growth? Is this about contribution? Those are the basic human needs. Once you understand that connection, you can go through a process of, really, first of all, asking yourself, when did I decide that this is how I was going to get this need met, right? Was that what was available when I was young? Was that the only way to get that need met when I was young? So then I just decided, like I said, outdated software I just never updated? Or is it connected to something that I absolutely need to stay safe? Once you can recognize essentially why it's there and why your subconscious says, nope, I'm not giving this up, you can become a team. You have to understand its reasoning. And once you understand its reasoning, now you're no longer that 6-year-old or 8-year-old. You know better, you know more, and you have a better, broader understanding probably of the reality. So you can explain that to that version of you and say, okay, we know that love is not conditional. We know that if I'm not being my true self and I'm receiving love, that's not real love and it's not really fulfilling me. So, do I really want to believe and continue to show up in a way where I have to hide who I am to get, receive love, right? And you walk yourself through the process of, no, that's really not a smart, this is not really serving me. And once you understand, here's the cool thing about programming. Once you fully understand the pattern and what is keeping you attached to the pattern, it loses its power over you.
Mm,
It's sort of like that dark closet that you just do not want to get close to and open. It's like facing your deepest fear. You just got to go open the door, turn on the light, and oftentimes you realize it's empty.
mm,
It's about really facing it. It's not running away from it. It's not using coping mechanisms. It's just facing head on. And again, it's about having compassion with yourself. You're not approaching this process through judgment of, oh my gosh, I do this. You have to remember this is trying to keep me safe somehow.
mhm,
And maybe it doesn't logically make sense how this is keeping me safe at 50, but when I was 5, it did. And it's recognizing again that this is a different version of you, an old version of you thinking and feeling this way. And it's about bridging the gap between those two. And when you do, it goes from an intellectual knowledge of, oh, I know I should be looking for unconditional love, to an embodiment. And when you embody something, because those programs are gone and you shift your identity of, I deserve unconditional love and I deserve to be loved for who I am by going through that process, now you embody that. And what do we know about manifestation, right? You attract what you are, who you are. And so there, when you embody effortlessly, you manifest.
It's not what you do, it's who you be.
And who you are and exactly.
Yeah, I love that because awareness is so powerful. And like you said, not trying to resist, because like that old saying, what you resist persists. And it's so true. It's more about just welcoming in whatever it is and seeing it and witnessing it and loving it. And that in itself helps to dissipate. I mean, just talking about emotions, like if you're feeling anxious or something, and if you actually go inwards and start, feeling the texture of that feeling in your chest and giving it a color and kind of bringing it to life, after 5 minutes or so, you notice that that feeling starts to dissipate just by bringing your awareness to it. So
Yeah.
pretty
And
powerful.
for anyone who's never experienced what we're talking about, I want to give an example that you probably have experienced. Let's say you're really upset with, a family member or a best friend. They did something, and you're really hurt at them or mad at them, and they meet you with empathy and they say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, tell me exactly how you feel. Like, oh wow, why do you feel that way? Why do you
Mm,
think that's important, right? Someone just sitting there with you, witnessing your pain. And if they just said, I am so sorry, I would have never wanted to hurt you, right? And if anyone's ever had someone kind of really show up and own and take accountability and not try to fix it, just see it, sit with you with your pain, acknowledge it, and apologize. Not even say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but just, I'm really sorry you're feeling this way.
yeah.
Oftentimes, that's it, right? We're good. We hug it out. Like, okay, we're good, right? If you fought with your sibling and you had that, hug it out and you're good. If you know that feeling, what I'm referencing right now, that's what we're saying happens. It's exactly the same process. That part of you is not asking you to go back in time and fix it. That part is just saying, I need someone to see me, validate me, and give me a space to feel free to express how I'm feeling. It's about being seen and heard.
Mm, beautiful. And so I know this work creates such incredible shifts. Can you share a success story or a personal experience where subconscious healing led to a real transformation?
Absolutely. Um, well, I work with thousands of clients, and oh my gosh, I have so many stories. I feel like the one that probably is would make most sense to share is actually mine, because what drew me to this work and why I'm so passionate about doing what I do is because I felt every single part of that pain and the struggle and the frustration, everything from abandonment trauma from not having my biological dad in my life growing up to trauma of moving to different countries to developing chronic health issues to experiencing just all kinds of different ways of the world telling me, hey, this is not okay, something's wrong with you, right? Whether it is not fitting into a new culture, whether it is feeling like the outsider. Like I said, I struggle with chronic health issues since I was 4 years old. um, Biggest thing I wanted to do is figure out how to help myself and how to heal. And Dr. Brad's modalities, the emotion, the body, and the belief code have been absolutely pivotal in really helping me regain power and strength and really take back my control of my life. And through learning what I knew about the subconscious mind, I knew that a lot of the answers to what was going on and how I was going to, heal lied in there. So after trying to understand why I do what I do and doing a lot of energetic healing with Dr. Brad's modality and, using it on myself and my clients, um, I experienced a lot of improvements in my health. I started noticing that the chronic health issues that I had, I actually was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. Well, currently in remission. I don't take any medication and treatment for it, and my body is healthy. And I use diet and lifestyle changes. But even before that, when had made the diet and lifestyle changes, the symptoms were still there and would still show up. And after doing the deep energetic clearing of the emotional trauma that was stored in my body and balancing the body, and then also after that, going and rewiring the subconscious, living with a chronic health issue for a long time or living with, abandonment identity of why was this, my parent not there? Like I said, right, these moments, it's not just the trauma, it's not that your body goes in survival mode, it changes your identity. Now you become a different person. And the last missing piece for me was that shifting of the identity, which is my own method that I created of rewiring your identity and saying, okay, you clear all the programming, you've cleared the energy trauma, you've done all this healing, you've changed your diet, your environment. Now it's time to take back your full identity. I am, and rewiring my identity was the missing piece and the last part where everything just clicked. It's allowed me to build a multiple six-figure business. I get to be my own boss. I get to work with incredible people, be in alignment with my true purpose. I get to be chronic health issue free and live a healthy life. I mean, everything that I've wanted from a manifestation perspective, I think is thanks to me rewiring my subconscious and doing the energy healing. I think the secret to manifestation, getting everything you want on that vision board, is doing the work. And I've discovered this is how you get there. So
Mm,
you can say I'm good at manifestation, or you could say maybe I'm just good at understanding programming and how to properly heal it. But my life has completely changed from someone who had chronic digestive health issues, chronic systemic inflammation, anxiety, depression, abandonment trauma, all kinds of different things. And I wanted, I didn't want the past to define my present and the future. And I wanted to, I always wondered, am I going to just, is this just part of my story and I just have to kind of carry it with me?
yeah.
And for anybody that's relates to any part of what I share that I've struggled with, I just want to say from someone who's been through the path and has experienced sort of the after, not only can you heal, not only can your physical body heal, not only can your emotional body heal, but you can completely change who you believe you are, what you believe you deserve, what relationships should look like, what you're able to manifest and create for your life. And I want to just be one person, because I know there's millions out there, but just to be one person to tell you, you can do it. Your past does not define your future. Absolutely does not. And take your power back, reclaim your life, and create the reality you want. So,
Yes, that's so amazing. And it's so encouraging to hear that real change is possible, no matter how long we've been stuck in old patterns or if we've been given certain illnesses or whatever it is, like it's possible to heal and to become a whole new person. And I also love how um our challenges or maybe our quote unquote setbacks or our traumas, I feel like actually lead us to
yeah.
these amazing modalities or our life purpose or our dharma. And so I
Mhm.
always think that's cool because anytime I talk to anybody, whatever it was that led them to where they are, it was something traumatic or not very, not very welcome. So,
I think it's one of the simplest, the reason why it feels like a calling, probably more than anything really is like when you've spent years, decades, right, searching for answers for something that so deeply affects your personal life. And all of a sudden you find the answers. And you know you're not the only one feeling this way. And you know there's so many people struggling with the same thing. And you know how lonely that journey can be, how just disheartening it can feel, right? And I've been in the darkest of those places too. You want everyone that you know feels the same way to have access to what you have. When something literally saves your life, you're going to want to share with other people that you know are probably in the same place once you were. So,
mm,
yeah, like you said, I think it becomes almost like a responsibility, knowing I know exactly what that pain feels like, and I've got I found something that helps. I have found something that helps you heal. So it's just a natural progression of, you find the answer and you want to share with the world.
mm. Well, thank you so much, Elsa, for sharing your wisdom. This has been such a powerful conversation, and I know many people are going to walk away feeling inspired to start their healing journey. And so, where can people connect with you to learn more?
Absolutely. First of all, I want to say thank you so much. It's been an honor to get to connect with you, and thank you for asking all those questions. It's been an honor to share my journey and what I've come to learn throughout the years. I'm excited. I've created a guide where people can actually go through series of questions and start really digging into their subconscious and really look for some of these programs, look for the emotional attachments, and figure out what new programs they want to install and how they want to change their beliefs and identity. I've actually even created AI prompts for those who like to use ChatGPT. You can actually use your AI to walk you through the process, and I have a guided prompt idea. You can kind of customize it. So if you kind of struggle to do self-reflection, you can even use AI, especially if your AI knows you. It might actually give you some incredible insight. So I've put together the Instant Breakthrough Guide, and it's for everyone who's participating. You can download it for free and start the process of just starting to ask what's going on in that subconscious mind of yours and developing that relationship. Of course, I also have my website. It's just elzasophie.com, and any new offerings and resources and ways to work with me or programs that I'm creating. I have another 7-day guide that's about to launch soon. So any new offerings that I have, my website would be the perfect place to just stay in touch with all the new developments.
Mm, thank you again, Elsa.
Of course, it's been my pleasure and honor.
And to everybody listening, just remember that true confidence isn't something we fix on the surface. It's something that we uncover by healing the deeper layers of who we are. Until next time.